Good evening, and welcome to a very special pre-recorded episode of the Prince Hall Think Tank, a monthly conversation amongst Prince Hall Freemasons where we discuss topics relative to craft masonry. My name is Brother Antonio Caffey. James is somewhere preparing for his next presentation. Damien is somewhere preparing his next great book, and Dave is somewhere scouting for the New York Knicks. But in all seriousness, I've given those good brothers the night off, and I continue to thank them for all of the hard work and dedication that they've shown the show for the past 6 years. So thank you, brothers. Tonight we'll be showcasing various significant Masonic sites that some of our great viewers and regular panelists have discovered. So thank you for submitting those videos. As always, the views and opinions that are expressed by us this evening in no way reflect the views and opinions of the Grand Lodges, Grand Chapters, Lodges, and Chapters in which we all hold membership in. So sit back, enjoy these presentations, and let's continue to teach Masonry in our lodges.
Hey everyone, it's Brother Dave Galarm. This video is going to serve as a follow-up video that's been posted on the Prince Hall Think Tank Facebook page. And that was the video about Brother John Godwin. So today, I'm here underneath the Dillingham Street Bridge. Talk to you a little bit about this bridge and why it's an important structure involving Freemasonry. Now, what is the Dillingham Street Bridge and how is it important? So if you go to my profile picture on Facebook, and the bridge is in the background, that's the Dillingham Street Bridge. This bridge was the first bridge erected connecting Columbus and Girard, Alabama in 1832. So this bridge was constructed by John Godwin, Brother John Godwin, and future Freemason Brother Horace King. Brother Horace King was a slave at the time, which, if you go back to the previous story, you see how he was freed from slavery from the act of the Alabama State Legislature in 1846. So they win the contract to build this bridge, and it was and then roughly around 1841 or so, this bridge washed away in a flood. So they won the contract to build this bridge again. And Horace King was in charge of the bridge building. So even though they didn't submit the lowest bid, the city granted them the contract because they had Horace King. And the first bridge cost them $14,000, and the second one they charged $15,000. That's a little over about $500,000 in today's money. So the second bridge lasted to April 1865, actually April 16th, 1865. Now, why is that date significant? So, for those that don't know, Columbus is the site of the last major land battle of the Civil War. So what's funny about it is the battle was completely unnecessary. The Confederacy had already surrendered, but that news hadn't traveled locally. So General Cobb thought he still had to protect the city. General Wilson still thought he had to take it. So this bridge that I'm underneath was very important to the security of Columbus. So reason why, because Horace King built covered bridges. And so if you Google Horace King and especially this Dillingham Street Bridge, you will see a picture of one of the bridges in his earlier years when it was covered. So the Confederate Army planned to remove the last 50 feet on the Georgia side, which is right above my head. That way, when General Wilson and his troops came in, it was covered, so it was dark inside, they would not be able to see that the last 50 feet was removed. The plan was to get them in. They would not be able to advance into Columbus, and to burn them alive inside the bridge. Well, seems pretty rough, but it was war. Stuff like that happened. Well, the bridge was burned too soon. So General Wilson turned his troops around, took over Red Hill, and then stormed into Columbus via the 14th Street Bridge. And that's how they were able to take the city. But since the bridge had been burned, and this was such an important bridge because it was closely located to where the factories were, Horace King had to build this bridge again. So he got paid to build the same bridge 3 times. Just imagine that. And underneath the bridge, you see there's a historical marker dedicated to Brother Horace King. And on the Alabama side of this bridge, on the top side, there's also a historical marker. And just the next bridge over is named the Horace King Friendship Bridge. So these bridges in this area were constructed by Horace King, a former slave, who later became a charter member of Bradwell Lodge number 4, which is now Lewis Hayden Lodge number 6. So in my opinion, this bridge is very important because it was originally built by a Freemason, Brother John Godwin, and then subsequently built additional times by Brother Horace King, who would then become a Prince Hall Mason himself. So that's just my few minutes on why I think this bridge is pretty important, and I hope you enjoyed it.
This is Brother Jose Bieji from Huntsville, Alabama, where it is about 9 a.m. and it's already 100 degrees. So, yeah, welcome. Just want to let you know that this is just me speaking on behalf of myself, not on behalf of any organization. So just want to put it out there. So, my favorite masonic place here, this is the Glenwood Cemetery. Here in Huntsville, Alabama. It is the, I would say, the Black Cemetery of Huntsville. Not necessarily the first. The first was the Georgia, Old Georgia over there. And it was replaced. It was replaced with a hospital built on top of it, but that's another story. I am also a Scoutmaster, a Boy Scout Troop 400. Every year we have a tradition of placing flags in the graves of veterans here. So, like this gentleman right here, Mac Harris. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Mac Harris, the Spanish-American War. I think there's a Civil War veteran around here somewhere. I think it's over there. So, 2 things typically happen when I come out here with my scouts. The first thing is they always, oh, by the way, I believe this is the Civil War veteran, Mr. John Porter, born 1825, died 1911. So 2 things they ask me that usually comes out when my Boy Scouts come out here is the first comments about why, or they ask, really, because they're young, so they try to get understanding for it. They ask, why the African American veterans buried differently or separately from the other veterans of American War, white veterans of American War, who are typically buried in the bigger, older, and much better kept cemetery called Maple Hill. Then you have to explain to them the history of segregation, and that's always an interesting topic to discuss, I believe. The second comment or observation they make, like, hey, Mr. Kosa, we found one of your brothers, and as you can expect, there's a lot of Masons who were buried here, like this gentleman right here, Brother David Hall. He was I think one time, Grand Senior Warden of our district. There's quite a few brothers that are buried out here. I won't throw stones in the cemetery, but I will figuratively say you can throw a stone anywhere in this cemetery and you'll find a Masonic plot or tombstone. So, walking over now to, I believe, my I would say my most. If I don't even see it, there's one right there. So like I said, don't throw stones at graveyards, but if you could, almost every one buried here is a Masonic brother, including one buried down there where I was. His name was Perry Ward, one of the finest Masons Huntsville has ever had. Occupied a few positions and was very active till his death. Before I became a Mason, but his legend definitely precedes him. And right here is my, I would say, my favorite plot. This is a family plot for Henry Claxton Binford. He was Grand Master in the early 1900s, I believe. The first principal of the first, at the time, colored school in Huntsville. The first colored Huntsville school. Yeah, specifically Huntsville Public School. The school was at the basement of a church. Then later on moved to the Lodge Hall of Evening Star Lodge number 6. He was Grand Master, like I said, in the early 1900s. He was the first Alabama Mason to earn the 33rd degree. And let's see, he was a politician. He was an alderman. Very interesting history this gentleman has. And by marriage, I believe he's also related to this Grandmaster, Grandmaster Charles Henley. Charles Henley was Grandmaster from, I believe, the late 30s into the 60s when he passed away. He was a Howard University graduate. Also a principal of back then Council High School, which again, unfortunately, was one of the segregated high schools for blacks in Huntsville. He was a lawyer and he practiced in Alabama, and his administration was very well liked, from what I understand. A lot of traditions set there. So so this is the plot I come to almost all the time. It's the Binford family plot. There are quite a few gravestones here, but yes, this is my favorite Masonic spot. I wouldn't say period, but my other favorite spot is the Grand Lodge building in Birmingham. But this definitely is the closest to it here locally. All right, well, thanks for taking time to speak with me, or rather to listen to me. I am going back to my cool car, drinking some water, and going back to my air-conditioned home.
Greetings to the viewers of the Prince Hall Think Tank. Brother Damian Jack, proud past master of Paul Drayton Lodge number 7, where Brother Lonnie McBride serves as our worshipful master, under the auspices of the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of North Carolina, where the Honorable Daniel L. D.T. Thompson serves as our 24th most worshipful Grand Master. As you know, tonight's episode highlights important places within Prince Hall Freemasonry. Being here in Charlotte, North Carolina, this is a place where I feel is important. I'm standing here at the mausoleum of Brother William W. Smith. And Brother Smith was Charlotte's first black builder and architect, proud member of my lodge, Paul Drayton number 7. And he did not start out as an architect. He was actually a protege of Mr. William Hauser. It's not said where Mr. Hauser was a Prince Hall Mason, but his son, Napoleon Hauser, who was a famous pharmacist, became a Prince Hall Freemason within the Arkansas jurisdiction. Brother Smith is responsible for the architect and building of the Mecklenburg Investment Company, which was located in the historic Brooklyn neighborhood, which was a neighborhood for affluent African Americans, which is now the Second Ward. He and his wife were also founders of the historic Grace AME Zion Church, also found in the Brooklyn neighborhood. This mausoleum here is one of 2 famous mausoleums here at the cemetery. Right now we are at Conwood Cemetery, which is one of the 3 subdivisions of Elmwood Cemetery. Now, Elmwood Cemetery is the second city-owned cemetery here in Charlotte. The first was Old Settlers Cemetery, which was located
on West 5th and Trade Street. Old Settlers was the only city-owned cemetery until 1854, when Elmwood was actually built and established. As I said, Elmwood is consisted of 3 different cemeteries. As you look over and pan over this way, you will notice the extravagant headstones far and away. That portion is Elmwood Cemetery. And Elmwood Cemetery at the time was for whites only, whereas Pinewood, where we're at here, was for African Americans. And further down, you would have Potter's Field, which was for those who were unknown and those who could not afford burial plots. Now, Elmwood and Pinewood were separated in 2 different ways. First, it was separated by the street. You will see if you would come in from the main entrance that there is a different street to actually get into Pinewood Cemetery. Also, there were 2 different entrances. The main entrance was located on 6th Street, but African Americans had to use the back entrance to get into Pinewood Cemetery, which was located on 9th Street. Also, for a time, there was a fence that divided the 2 cemeteries. And it was not until Charlotte's first black city councilman, also proud Prince Hall Mason, Fred Alexander, fought to have this fence removed, mainly because this fence had a sign that said no trespassing on it. When the vote came at City Council, the vote was deadlocked. It was up to the mayor at the time, Stan Brookshire, to break that tie. He broke the tie, and in January of 1969, that fence was taken down. Here in Pinewood Cemetery, you have very many affluent African Americans and very proud Prince Hall Masons, a couple we're going to visit in just a moment. Here we stand at the burial grounds of the Lomax family. In particular, who I want to give your attention to is Bishop Thomas H. Lomax. Bishop Lomax was born in Fayetteville, North Carolina. He became a bishop and moved here to Charlotte, North Carolina, where in 1875 he was appointed District Deputy Grand Master of Charlotte's District by our very first Grand Master, Bishop James Walker Hood. He served as a bishop for 32 years until his death. Once again, his burial grounds is here in the famous Pinewood Cemetery. And finally, we are here at the resting place of what all may know, especially my nobles of the Mystic Shrine, Caesar Robert Blake Jr. Brother Blake served as a Ninth Worshipful Master of my lodge, Aldrich Lodge No. 7, where he fellowshiped with Brother William W. Smith. He served as illustrious potentate of my temple, Ramesses Temple No. 51, Oasis of Charlotte, Desert, North Carolina. And as you all may know, he served as Imperial Potentate from 1919 until his death in 1931. He also served as Exalted Ruler of Pisgah Lodge here in Charlotte, which is part of the Elks organization. So once again here at Pinewood Cemetery, which is a part of Elmwood Cemetery, there's a lot of history, a lot of brothers and sisters who are buried here, and this is why I consider this place to be an important place in Prince Hall Freemasonry. Thank you.
Greetings, brothers. This is Brother Daniel Dinwiddie coming to you from Charleston, South Carolina, standing at the corner of Broad and Church Street, right in front of the South State Bank. South State Bank has not always been here. From the year 1705 to 1796, at this corner used to be Shepherd's Tavern. Shepherd's Tavern is the birthplace of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, and also the birthplace of Freemasonry in the state of South Carolina. Right now you can see the marker where Shepherd's Tavern used to sit. Unfortunately, the weeds have grown up a little bit. I think the brothers need to get out here and do some trimming. But as much as the bank is situated, Shepherd's Tavern used to sit in the same orientation. Again, it was built in 1705. It burned down in 1795. And then on June 1st, 1801, when the building was rebuilt, the Scottish Rite was founded here. Also, the Society of Cincinnati was founded here in 1783. And to my understanding, the actual building is depicted here on the, there you go. You can see it. That's how Shepherd's Tavern used to look back in the day.
Hello, everyone. I'm Darnisha C. Pickett, and I am standing at the historic Elmwood Cemetery in Memphis, Tennessee, alongside the resting place of Brother Josiah T. Settle. Brother Settle was born September 30, 1850. He was a member of Magnolia Lodge, number 16, in Sardis, Mississippi. At that time, under the auspices of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Tennessee. Brother Settle was born into slavery to his slave owner father and his slave mother. His father, Josiah T. Settle Sr., migrated the family to Mississippi, and ultimately they were kicked out of Mississippi because newly emancipated slaves could not reside in the state of Mississippi at that time. So his father ends up migrating the family to Ohio. And Ohio is where Josiah T. Settle Sr. and Nancy Settle are buried. Brother Settle ends up going to Oberlin College. After entering Oberlin College, he goes to Howard University, in which he graduates in 1872. He goes back to Howard Law School and graduates in 1875. He ends up migrating back down to Mississippi, in which Mississippi is where he called his home. He runs on the ticket as district attorney for the Sardis, Mississippi area, or 12th district. He does not win that particular election, but he does earn a seat at the table later in the late 1880s. He ends up migrating to Memphis, Tennessee, and Memphis, Tennessee is where I would say he really flourished as an attorney. He goes on to serve as the president of the National Negro Bar Association, and he also was admitted to practice on the Supreme Court. He was known as one of the best attorneys of his time, and he also earned respect among the blacks and the whites because the Settle was such a large name. But not just that, it was because he was so intelligent, and most of his addresses were, people would say, that were phenomenal, well written, poetically spoken. And with that, I say, Brother Settle.
What's going on, Think Tank? This is Brother Caffey, and I'm here to give you a brief history of this building that I'm standing in front of right now. So this is St. Mark's Temple here in Columbus, Ohio, where St. Mark's Lodge number 7, my home lodge, along with several other lodges, OES chapters, and other bodies of Freemasonry regularly meet. But previously to meeting here, my lodge met in several other buildings throughout Columbus. However, they really wanted a place that they can call their own. So in 1919, the brothers began planning to do just that. By 1920, the brothers had actually raised $4,000, which was enough money to put down as a down payment actually for this piece of land right here. So once this piece of property was selected, which is on the corner of Miami and Long Street, back then it was a very prominent African American community here in Columbus. So once this location was purchased and the brothers got in contact with the property owner, he informed them that yes, he was interested in selling the property. However, he couldn't sell it to them because of their race. However, he did say that he would sell it to a third party, a white person, and then that person could make the sale to us. So as strange as that sounds, the brothers did find someone that would agree to that, and on July 28th, 1920, the sale was completed and the brothers had purchased this property. The brothers then interviewed architects to design the actual building, and after choosing an architect, the brothers began construction of this site right here, or this building. They also had to take out another loan to pay for the construction of the building, as well as paying off the existing mortgage. The building was actually completed on January 15th, 1927, 75 years after our lodge was founded. The $30,000 mortgage was canceled and released in 1943. At the time of this building was built, it was considered the first newly constructed Masonic temple in all of Ohio. So how did the brothers pay off the $30,000 mortgage or $30,000 loan so fast? We walk down right here, you'll notice that it's a big building, but it's two different addresses. So this is 988 and this is the actual Masonic temple. Right here, walk down a little bit, this is 984. This portion of the building right here was actually the first Grenadier Club in America. So this was the first Grenadier Club in America, and it was operated by Alibaba Temple number 53, Ancient Egyptian Arabic Order Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. The brothers built this bar right here, and they made enough money off of this bar to pay off the mortgage for this entire property and the construction of this building. So the brothers knew going in that they needed some type of way to generate revenue on a regular basis to pay off the mortgage. So they decided to build this bar along with it. And again, this was considered the first Grenadier Club in America. So thank you for listening, and thank you for also continuing to tune in.